This particular phase in my life is the most dangerous. Someone, the name blacked out, is planning an accident in my car.
Something has come to light that no one ever saw coming. A note, written by Princess Diana herself, has been found in FBI files, hidden away for years. And what it says is truly shocking. For decades, people have wondered about her tragic death. There have been rumors, theories, and questions with no clear answers. But this note? It changes everything. It reveals fears she had, warnings she gave, things that now seem impossible to ignore. Why was it kept secret for so long? Who wanted it hidden? And most importantly, what does this mean for everything we thought we knew? What does the note say? Princess Diana's story has always been full of mystery, but this new discovery takes things to another level. A note, handwritten by Diana herself, has been found in secret FBI documents. But what exactly does it say? At first glance, the letter is shocking. It talks about her deep emotional struggles and hints at something even more unsettling. Some believe it is a suicide note. Others think it might be something else entirely. But before we jump to conclusions, we need to break it down carefully. Did Diana express suicidal thoughts? This is the biggest question. Did Princess Diana really want to take her own life? The note reportedly describes feelings of isolation, fear, and deep sadness. It talks about how she felt like she had no control over her own life. It even suggests that she was overwhelmed to the point where she didn't know how much longer she could keep going. But here's the twist. The wording of the note is not clear-cut. Some experts say it sounds like a cry for help rather than a final goodbye. It's the kind of letter someone writes when they feel trapped, not necessarily when they are ready to give up. Diana had spoken about feeling alone before. She had opened up about her struggles with depression, bulimia, and anxiety. She once said that she felt like a prisoner inside the royal family. So, was this note just another moment where she was expressing her pain? Or was it something more serious? This is where things get complicated. When and where was this note written? The timing of this letter is very important. If Diana wrote it during her divorce from Prince Charles, it would make sense why she was feeling so low. That was one of the hardest times in her life. She was dealing with constant media attention, betrayal, and public humiliation. Imagine this. One day, you're the most loved woman in the world, and the next, you're being pushed out of the royal family. That's exactly what happened to Diana. She had given everything to her marriage. But Charles had been in love with Camilla Parker Bowles the whole time. When the truth finally came out, Diana was devastated. She was also losing her title, her home, and even her sense of security. The royal family was cutting her off, and the press was making things worse. Could this note have been written in the middle of all that? Or was it written even later, when she had finally found love with Dodi Fayed? That changes everything. If she had written it while she was happy, then why would she be thinking about ending her life? The FBI hasn't revealed the exact date of the note yet, and that's what makes this so frustrating. The timeline could tell us whether Diana was truly suicidal, or if this was just a moment of overwhelming stress. Was the handwriting authentic? Now, here's where things get even more suspicious. How do we even know this note is real? Experts have analyzed the handwriting, and from the first look, it does seem to match Diana's usual style. But there are also some strange differences. Some letters don't look quite right. The spacing feels off in certain parts. Now, we have to ask, could someone have forged this letter? If the letter was truly written by Diana, then it is a painful reminder of her struggles. But if it was fake, who would want to create a fake suicide note? And more importantly, why? We have seen cases before where documents related to Diana have been altered. Remember the infamous BBC Panorama interview? It was later revealed that Diana was tricked into giving that interview through fake documents. If people were willing to lie to Diana back then, who's to say they wouldn't lie about this note now? Some theorists believe this letter conveniently appeared to change the way people see Diana's death. If people believe she was suicidal, it takes attention away from the theory that she was murdered. Could this be part of a larger cover-up? How does this compare to Diana's "they are planning my accident" letter? This is where things get really eerie. In 1995, Diana wrote another famous letter to her butler, Paul Burrell. In it, she said something shocking. "My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure and serious head injury." This letter became one of the biggest pieces of evidence for people who believe Diana was assassinated. She had predicted that something would happen to her in a car crash, 2 years before she actually died in a car crash. Now, let's compare the two notes. The 1995 letter clearly shows that Diana believed someone was out to get her. She wasn't suicidal. She was scared. She thought people were plotting against her. The newly found letter seems to suggest the opposite, that Diana was feeling hopeless and might have wanted to harm herself. Do you see how these two letters completely contradict each other? One letter says Diana was fighting for her life because people were targeting her. The other suggests she had given up and was thinking of ending things herself. Which one are we supposed to believe? If Diana had truly been planning to take her own life, then why would she have written that first letter warning about a staged accident? You don't write a note predicting your own murder if you actually plan to harm yourself later. This is why many people don't trust this newly found letter. Some believe it was planted to make Diana's death look less suspicious. After all, if people think she was already struggling, then her tragic end wouldn't seem so strange. It's a way of silencing the murder theories without actually proving anything. But if Diana did write both letters, then this is even more heartbreaking. It would mean she lived in a constant state of fear, sadness, and paranoia, believing that both the world and her own mind were working against her. So, what is the truth? That's the hardest part. We don't know yet. What we do know is that Diana's life was never simple. She was either the most loved woman in the world or the most hunted. She had moments of deep pain, but she also had moments of hope. If this letter is real, then it shows just how much she was struggling. But if it's fake, then someone is still trying to control her story, years after her death. One thing is certain, the mystery of Princess Diana is far from over. Was Diana being watched? First, we need to talk about something that not many people know. Princess Diana was being watched, and not just by the British government, but also by the US intelligence agencies. Now, you might be thinking, why would the FBI or the CIA care about Diana? She wasn't a politician. She wasn't a world leader. She wasn't involved in government affairs. She was a princess who spent her time helping charities and taking care of her 2 sons. But here's the thing, Diana was powerful. Not in a political way, but in a way that scared powerful people. She had the ability to change public opinion overnight. She could speak about a cause, and suddenly the whole world would care. She spoke about things that many people in power didn't want to be talked about. Things like landmines, AIDS awareness, and even corruption. There's one more thing. At the time of her death, Diana was dating Dodi Fayed, an Egyptian billionaire. There were rumors, big, loud rumors, that they were about to get married. Some even believed she was pregnant with his child. Now, let's be real. The British royal family did not like this relationship. Imagine the future King of England, Prince William, having a Muslim stepfather and possibly even a half-sibling who was part Arab. For the monarchy, which had a long history of keeping things traditional, this was a huge deal. So, Diana wasn't just a princess. She was someone who could change history. And that's why she was watched. The US government's secret involvement now, this is where things get even stranger. The FBI has never openly admitted to watching Diana, but the CIA? Well, they slipped up. In 1999, 2 years after her death, the CIA confirmed that they had over 1,000 pages of files on Diana. Yes, you heard that right, 1,000 pages. And guess what? They refused to release most of them. The official reason? National security. Wait, what? National security? Why would a British princess's personal life be a national security issue for the United States? That's the big mystery. Some believe that Diana's campaign against landmines put her on the radar of military groups. Others think that her relationship with Dodi Fayed was what made her a target. And some even go as far as saying that certain governments didn't want her around anymore. But here's where things get even creepier. Among the few documents that were released, there were reports that Diana believed she was being spied on. She had even told her friends that she felt her phone was tapped. And now, years later, we find out that the FBI had a note that she wrote? That's not a coincidence. How was this note discovered? Now let's get to the big part. How was this note even found? Well, it wasn't found in some old storage box. It wasn't lying in a pile of forgotten papers. It was hidden in classified files. The note was part of a batch of secret FBI documents that were only released because of a Freedom of Information Act request. This means that someone had to fight to get these documents unsealed. They weren't just randomly given to the public. For decades, nobody knew this note even existed. It was tucked away, buried in files that nobody had access to. Which makes you wonder, was this information intentionally kept from the public? And if so, why? Was this note suppressed? Now, here's where things get really weird. If this note was so important, why was it hidden for so long? There are only two possible reasons. One, it was just forgotten. It got buried in the middle of thousands of other classified documents, and nobody thought it was important enough to release. But let's be honest. Does that sound likely? This is Princess Diana we're talking about. Every little detail about her life has been analyzed and discussed for years. If there was a note like this, it would have been found much earlier. Which brings us to the second reason, and this one is more disturbing. The note was suppressed on purpose. Think about it. If this note had been released years ago, what would have happened? If it contained anything that supported the theory that Diana was being watched, manipulated, or even threatened, then suddenly, all the conspiracy theories wouldn't seem so crazy anymore. If it suggested that she was struggling mentally in a way that was never made public, then people would start questioning everything about the official story of her death. The bottom line is this: someone didn't want this note to come out, and now that it has, it raises more questions than it answers. So, what does this note really mean? Does it prove Diana was struggling so much that she wanted to take her own life? Or does it make the mystery of her death even deeper? Let's be honest. Since the day Princess Diana died, people have had their doubts. The official story says she was in a car accident while trying to escape the paparazzi. But for years, many believed that it wasn't an accident at all. People said she was murdered. Some believed the royal family was behind it. Others thought powerful forces wanted her gone. But now, with this note coming to light, things have taken an unexpected turn. If Diana really wrote a letter hinting at suicide, does that mean all those theories were wrong? Could it be that she was truly in emotional pain and no one listened? Or, and this is a big or, was this note planted? Was it written under pressure? Was someone trying to build a case even before she died? Does this note challenge the assassination theory? For years, Diana herself believed she was being watched. She once told her butler, Paul Burrell, that she feared for her life. She even wrote a letter predicting that she would die in a car crash. That letter is real. It's been public knowledge for a long time. In it, she said that someone was planning to tamper with her car's brakes. Now, if someone was planning to harm her, why would she also write a note about suicide? These two things don't really match, do they? If this note is real, then some people will say, see? Maybe she wasn't murdered. Maybe she was just deeply sad, and the accident was truly an accident. But is it really that simple? The people who believe she was killed still have questions. They ask, if this note existed all along, why are we only hearing about it now? Why did the FBI have it? And why would a woman who was full of life, a woman who had just started a new relationship, suddenly write a note about ending it all? It just doesn't sit right. If Diana was truly in danger, it's possible that this note was a distraction, a way to make sure that if something happened to her, people wouldn't suspect foul play. And that makes you wonder, was this note really written by Diana? Or does this prove she was under psychological pressure? Let's consider something else. What if this note doesn't mean she planned to harm herself, but instead, it shows the emotional pain she was in? Diana had been through a lot. Her marriage to Prince Charles was a disaster. She felt alone in the royal family. She battled bulimia, depression, and an overwhelming amount of media pressure. Every single thing she did was watched. Every mistake was put on the front page of a newspaper. Every emotion was judged. Imagine being in that position. Imagine feeling like you have no escape. Now add to that the fact that Diana was speaking out. She had done that famous interview with the BBC where she said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage." She was open about her struggles. She was trying to break free from the royal family's control. And we all know how dangerous it can be when powerful people don't want the truth to come out. Could it be that Diana was being pushed into a mental state where she felt completely helpless? Could she have written this note during one of her lowest moments, not because she actually wanted to end her life, but because she felt like she had no one to turn to? Or, and this is where it gets really dark, was someone making sure she felt that way? Was she being harassed or manipulated into despair? This is something we need to think about. We already know that Diana felt like she was being watched. She had told people that her phones were bugged. She felt like she was being followed. And here's the thing, she wasn't wrong. There have been reports that intelligence agencies were keeping tabs on her. MI6, the British intelligence service, was known to have files on Diana. The FBI had documents on her. The CIA had some records too. The big question is, why? Why were all these intelligence agencies watching a woman who was no longer even a part of the royal family? Some believe it was because of her relationship with Dodi Fayed. He was the son of a billionaire, a man with powerful international connections. There were rumors that Diana and Dodi were going to get married. Some even speculated that she was pregnant. Now, if that was true, it could have caused major problems for the royal family. Think about it. A future king's mother married to a man from a different religious and cultural background? It might not sound like a big deal now, but back then, to the people in power, it could have been. So, was Diana being pushed into a state of despair? Was she being watched so closely that she felt like she had nowhere to go? If someone wanted her out of the picture, could psychological pressure have been part of the plan? And that brings us to the biggest question of all. Did she actually write this note? Or was it written for her? Could this note have been written under duress? This is where things get even murkier. Let's say for a moment that Diana did write this note. But let's also consider that she may not have done it freely. Imagine a scenario where someone close to her convinced her to write it. Maybe they told her, "Write down how you're feeling. It'll help." Maybe they said, "If something happens, people should know you were struggling." But what if that person wasn't looking out for her? What if this note was meant to be used later? And here's something else. What if she didn't write it at all? Handwriting analysis can tell us a lot, but let's be real, forensics can be manipulated. If someone wanted a document that made Diana's death look like a result of her own struggles, it wouldn't be impossible to create one. That might sound extreme, but we've seen cover-ups before. Powerful people protect their own. If there was something bigger going on, a simple note could help rewrite the narrative. Which brings us to the next big player in this story. The role of the British monarchy and intelligence agencies. If Diana's note was written willingly, it shows her mental state. If it wasn't, it opens up an entirely different conversation. Either way, this note being in the FBI's possession means one thing. Princess Diana was under surveillance. The British monarchy has always denied involvement in Diana's death. They say the crash was a tragic accident. But if Diana really was being watched, we have to ask. Were they worried about what she might do next? Did they fear that she was going to expose something? Did they see her as a threat? MI6 has been accused of having a role in her death before. Some former intelligence officers have even claimed that Diana's car crash was no accident. If there was ever a moment to shift the blame away, wouldn't a suicide note be the perfect tool? This note doesn't just change the story, it raises 100 more questions. Was Diana being watched to keep her safe, or to keep her quiet? If she really wrote this note, was it a desperate cry for help? Or was she being pushed into thinking she had no other way out? And most importantly, if this note had never been revealed, would we have ever known about it at all? What do you think? Does this note change your opinion on what really happened to her? Or do you believe there's still something we're not being told? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll keep following the truth, no matter where it leads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
That Diana, Princess of Wales, who was injured in that accident you've just seen pictured of, has actually died.
The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
The story of King Charles and Princess Diana was once seen as a fairy tale romance, but behind palace doors, it was a whirlwind of heartbreak and betrayal. For years, hidden secrets and scandals shaped their rocky marriage, leaving Diana struggling to find love and support.
Charles has great delivery. I mean, he's practically like a Shakespearean actor.
What really happened between them? This shocking betrayal changed the royal family forever, and it's finally coming to light. Emotional distance. Emotional distance isn't just a relationship challenge. It's a silent betrayal that can cut deeper than words. In the case of King Charles and Princess Diana, their royal marriage was the perfect picture on the outside. But behind the palace walls, emotional distance was tearing them apart. Diana and Charles entered their marriage with high hopes and public adoration, yet they quickly found themselves on separate emotional wavelengths. Diana's vibrant personality and emotional openness clashed with Charles's reserved and duty-driven demeanor. While Diana longed for love, support, and genuine connection, Charles seemed to retreat into his own world, one that included Camilla Parker Bowles. The emotional distance between the couple grew, as Diana felt increasingly isolated. Despite her efforts to connect with Charles, his affection often appeared elsewhere. The betrayal wasn't just about infidelity, it was about the emotional neglect Diana endured while she fought to keep their marriage alive. Charles's inability, or unwillingness to meet her emotional needs, became a wound that never healed. For Diana, this distance wasn't just heartbreaking, it was soul-crushing. Her struggles with bulimia and feelings of worthlessness were amplified by the coldness of her relationship. She later admitted to seeking connection elsewhere, a response to the loneliness she felt within her marriage. What makes this story resonate even today is how relatable it is. Emotional distance isn't confined to royal relationships. Many people have experienced the pain of being in a partnership where they feel unseen, unheard, and unimportant. In Diana's case, her courage to speak out and share her truth shone a light on the emotional battles many people face behind closed doors. Charles's secret betrayal wasn't just his affair. It was the choice to emotionally distance himself from the woman who had once dreamed of building a life with him. The story of Charles and Diana isn't just a royal scandal. It's a reminder that emotional connection is the foundation of any relationship. When that connection is lost, the cracks are impossible to ignore. Camilla Parker Bowles. Affair. Behind the grandeur of the royal family, there's a story that shook the world. The affair between King Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, a betrayal that left Princess Diana heartbroken. Their love triangle wasn't just a royal scandal, it was a devastating chapter in a marriage that was already on shaky ground. From the start, Diana sensed that Camilla was more than just an old friend of Charles. Despite their lavish wedding and the world's attention, Diana often felt like the third wheel in her own marriage. The emotional distance between her and Charles grew, fueled by his unwavering connection to Camilla. The secret affair wasn't just whispers in palace hallways, it was an open secret in royal circles. Diana eventually confronted Camilla at a party, bravely saying, "I know what's going on between you and Charles." Camilla's response? A dismissive retort that only deepened Diana's anguish. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was the emotional bond between Charles and Camilla that left Diana feeling isolated and unloved. Charles's affair with Camilla wasn't just a blow to Diana, it was a seismic event for the monarchy. The revelation of their relationship, combined with Diana's candid interviews, shattered the fairy tale image of the royal couple. Diana's now famous words, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," became a defining moment in their story. What made the betrayal even harder to digest was the perception that Charles had never truly let go of Camilla. For Diana, this wasn't just about losing her husband's love, it was about never truly having it in the first place. The Camilla affair remains a controversial chapter in royal history, but it also serves as a stark reminder of the cost of emotional neglect and betrayal. Diana's pain and bravery in the face of this betrayal left a lasting legacy, one that continues to captivate the world. Diana's confrontation. The royal marriage that once seemed like a fairy tale turned into one of the most heartbreaking and scandalous sagas in history. Princess Diana, known for her grace and charm, was blindsided by the betrayal of her husband, Prince Charles. But what happened when Diana finally confronted the woman at the center of it all? Camilla Parker Bowles? The dramatic moment is something the world never forgot. In the late 1980s, Diana's suspicions about Charles and Camilla's ongoing affair reached a boiling point. The emotional distance between Diana and Charles had grown too wide to ignore, and the rumors about their relationship were swirling in the media. But what could Diana do? The pain of knowing her husband was in love with someone else became unbearable, and Diana decided to take matters into her own hands. The infamous confrontation took place during a birthday party for Camilla's sister, Annabelle Elliott, and it was nothing short of explosive. Diana, her heart heavy with anger and sorrow, looked directly at Camilla and said, "I know what's going on between you and Charles." The tension in the room was palpable, and Diana's voice echoed with the rawness of her pain. Camilla's response was cold, dismissive, and utterly callous. She said, "You've got everything you ever wanted. A handsome husband, 2 beautiful children. What more could you want?" Diana's simple yet devastating reply left everyone stunned. "I want my husband." The conversation laid bare the emotional turmoil that had been eating away at Diana. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about her unfulfilled yearning for a connection with Charles. But that connection had long been lost. Diana's confrontation with Camilla revealed just how far Charles's emotional neglect had gone. It also revealed how powerless Diana felt in her own marriage, even as the world watched her every move. Her bravery in confronting the woman who had stolen her husband's heart only made the betrayal more poignant. This moment of truth would go on to shape Diana's legacy, forever remembered as a symbol of strength, courage, and heartbreak. Public confessions. The royal family's dirty laundry was never meant to be aired in public. But when Prince Charles and Princess Diana's troubled marriage started unraveling, the world was forced to watch every heart-wrenching detail unfold. The most shocking part? Both Charles and Diana made public confessions that revealed just how deep the betrayal ran. In 1994, Prince Charles shocked the world by admitting in an interview with Jonathan Dimbleby that he had indeed been unfaithful to Diana. In his own words, he admitted the affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, acknowledging that his marriage to Diana had irretrievably broken down. This was an unprecedented moment of honesty, especially from a royal figure, and it sent waves of shock through the public. For years, the rumors had swirled, but hearing Charles admit his betrayal publicly left no room for doubt. But the shock didn't end there. A year later, Princess Diana took to the BBC's Panorama interview to reveal her side of the story. In a candid and emotional confession, Diana spoke openly about her unhappiness within the royal family, her struggles with bulimia, and the emotional toll the marriage had taken on her. She even confessed to her own infidelity, admitting she had sought comfort outside her marriage after years of emotional neglect. One of the most memorable moments in her interview was her comment about the 3 of us in the marriage, referring to Camilla's ongoing relationship with Charles. Her words echoed the pain she had felt for years, having been pushed to the sidelines of her own marriage, while Camilla was always at the center of her husband's heart. These public confessions were a rare and shocking glimpse into the deeply troubled relationship between Charles and Diana. They painted a picture of 2 people trapped in a loveless marriage, each desperately seeking solace elsewhere. The revelations not only shattered the illusion of royal perfection, but also revealed just how far emotional neglect and betrayal can go, even within the walls of Buckingham Palace. Diana's struggles for years. Princess Diana was the picture of grace, beauty, and charm, always smiling in front of the cameras, a true people's princess. But behind that captivating smile, Diana was silently battling a storm of emotional struggles. The betrayal by Prince Charles and the constant heartbreak of his affair with Camilla Parker Bowles became an unspoken burden that weighed heavily on her. Diana's life within the royal family was far from the fairy tale many believed it to be. She found herself in a loveless marriage where her husband, Prince Charles, seemed emotionally distant. As the public continued to adore them as a perfect couple, Diana was left grappling with feelings of loneliness, inadequacy, and pain. Her constant battle with emotional neglect pushed her into a deep spiral, and it wasn't long before her struggles with bulimia and self-harm became part of her personal reality. But the most agonizing part? Prince Charles's affair with Camilla. Diana had always suspected something was wrong, and her worst fears were confirmed when the affair became public knowledge. While the world admired Diana for her grace, few could understand the profound hurt she felt in her personal life. She was fighting not only for her marriage, but for her own self-worth. Diana even admitted in interviews that her relationship with Charles was a bit crowded, a cryptic but clear reference to Camilla's constant presence in their lives. Diana's confession of her struggles was a turning point in her life. In her explosive interview with the BBC in 1995, she didn't hold back. Diana shared the truth about her pain, her fight with bulimia, and even her emotional breakdowns. Her courage to speak out, to expose the truth, was a pivotal moment in her life. But despite everything, Diana always longed for one thing: love and affection from her husband, something Charles never fully gave her. Diana's heartbreaking story is one of silent strength, the battle for love, and the pain of betrayal. Her struggles remain a poignant reminder of the human side of royalty and the cost of emotional neglect. Media scrutiny. Princess Diana's life was constantly under the watchful eye of the media, but the scrutiny she faced went beyond mere headlines. It was relentless, invasive, and at times, downright cruel. As her marriage with Prince Charles unraveled, the media played a huge role in exposing the secrets that the royal family tried so hard to keep hidden. But what many didn't realize was that the public's obsession with their troubled marriage only made things worse for Diana, especially when Charles's secret betrayal was finally laid bare. For years, Diana had been painted as the innocent, wronged party in her marriage to Charles. But the truth of her suffering went far deeper than the media could ever understand. As the press began to catch wind of Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, the tabloids and gossip columns were quick to sensationalize every detail. The media didn't just report the facts. They took pleasure in adding their own twists, often portraying Diana as a broken woman. Every move she made was scrutinized, every tear she shed dissected. But it wasn't just Diana who was affected. The public's fascination with her pain spilled over into the royal family, and suddenly, Charles's betrayal was a matter of public interest. The media did not hold back in exposing the affair and the emotional turmoil that came with it. They painted Charles as a man who had failed his wife and his country, and painted Diana as the victim, a woman deserving of sympathy and support. While the public followed every twist and turn of the royal drama, the media failed to recognize the emotional toll this constant scrutiny had on Diana. She was not just a princess or a symbol of hope for the British people. She was a human being, struggling in ways that no headline could fully capture. The media's relentless coverage of Diana's marriage and Charles's secret betrayal finally forced the truth into the open, but it also led to an invasion of her privacy that would haunt her for the rest of her life. In the end, while the public may have been captivated by the royal drama, Diana's personal pain was far more complex than the tabloids could ever portray. Queen Elizabeth's intervention. The royal family has always prided itself on maintaining a strong, united front. But the cracks in Prince Charles and Princess Diana's marriage were becoming impossible to ignore. While the world watched their relationship fall apart behind the scenes, Queen Elizabeth II was quietly stepping in to restore order and bring an end to the chaos. Her intervention, though discreet, would prove to be a game-changer in the scandal that rocked the monarchy. For years, Queen Elizabeth had remained relatively silent about her son's marriage woes. However, as public interest in the royal drama grew, and Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles was exposed for the world to see, the Queen could no longer stay on the sidelines. Despite her usual preference for privacy, Queen Elizabeth's role in the royal family meant she had to act, especially when it came to preserving the dignity and image of the monarchy. In 1995, the situation reached a boiling point. Charles had publicly admitted to his infidelity during an explosive interview, and the marriage was beyond saving. That's when the Queen decided to take a bold step. According to reports, she wrote a personal letter to Diana.
And he, Lord Mountbatten was probably the closest person to him, and Diana said to him, "You look so sad,"
urging her to grant an early divorce from Charles. This letter was not just an official royal request. It was a motherly plea for Diana to help bring closure to the marriage. Queen Elizabeth's intervention was carefully worded, emphasizing that it was in the best interest of the country and the royal family. She even signed the letter with "Love from Mama," a gesture that showed her genuine concern for Diana's well-being. While it was clear the Queen wanted to protect the family's image, the letter also showed her emotional understanding of the situation. By stepping in, Queen Elizabeth sought to end the public spectacle and bring peace to the fractured royal family.
To marry into the royal family and to become a future queen.
Her intervention helped pave the way for the eventual divorce between Charles and Diana in 1996. However, the betrayal Charles had inflicted on Diana would never be forgotten, and the royal family's efforts to restore their reputation were ultimately overshadowed by the lasting emotional damage caused by the affair. Divorce and aftermath. The divorce between Prince Charles and Princess Diana was not just the end of a marriage. It was the dramatic conclusion to years of tension, public humiliation, and heartbreak. After the media frenzy and public revelations about Prince Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, the royal couple finally called it quits in 1996. But the aftermath was far from a simple split. The impact of their divorce rippled through the royal family, the public, and even the press. For Princess Diana, the divorce marked a new chapter in her life. Despite the heartache, she handled the situation with a resilience that made her an even more beloved figure. However, the scars of her marriage were deep. Diana's struggles with self-esteem, mental health, and public image continued long after the legal documents were signed. Her need for love and affection, which had been ignored during her marriage, left her searching for solace in other relationships. Prince Charles, on the other hand, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief after the divorce. He was now free to pursue his relationship with Camilla openly, something that had been hidden for years. Despite the relief, his actions didn't come without consequence. The royal family was under scrutiny more than ever, as the public's trust in the monarchy began to wane. What followed was a bittersweet phase for both Charles and Diana. The divorce, while offering a sense of freedom, didn't mend the emotional wounds that had been inflicted over years of betrayal and emotional distance. The royal family's attempts to appear unified couldn't mask the rift that had grown. Despite the personal and public battles, both Charles and Diana carried the emotional weight of their broken marriage. In the end, Charles and Diana's divorce was a turning point for the monarchy, exposing hidden betrayals and pushing the royal family into a new era of scrutiny and transparency. Their story may have ended legally, but the emotional consequences of their troubled union lingered long after. Charles's tribute. After years of public scrutiny, betrayal, and a bitter divorce, King Charles's tribute to Princess Diana at her funeral took everyone by surprise. His unexpected gesture spoke volumes about their complicated relationship and left the world questioning what truly lay beneath the surface of their tumultuous marriage. The relationship between Charles and Diana was far from perfect, filled with emotional distance, infidelity, and heartbreak. Yet, despite all the drama and the affairs, including his well-known love for Camilla Parker Bowles, Charles's tribute to Diana at her funeral gave a glimpse of a deeper connection. While much of their marriage had been marked by tension and separations, his final act of respect suggested that he still held a certain regard for the woman who had been by his side for so many years. At Diana's funeral, Charles made a quiet but powerful statement by choosing to wear a navy suit instead of the traditional black mourning attire. To many, this might have seemed like a simple wardrobe choice. However, it had much more significance. Diana had always loved seeing Charles in navy, and this tribute, though subtle, was a poignant nod to their shared history. Was this Charles's way of showing that, despite all the pain and betrayal, he had a deep respect for Diana's legacy? Some royal watchers believed it was his way of acknowledging the tumultuous years of their marriage, filled with love, loss, and ultimately, profound sadness. Others speculated that it was an attempt to make amends for the betrayals that had stained their relationship over the years, offering a final, personal tribute to the woman who had once been the love of his life. Charles's tribute to Diana raised many questions, leaving the public wondering if there were feelings and regrets that he had never fully expressed during their marriage. While his actions couldn't undo the past, they did offer a glimpse of the complex emotions he may have carried for the rest of his life. Diana's legacy. Princess Diana's legacy continues to shape the world, even long after her tragic death. Her story was one of immense love, devastating betrayal, and unimaginable strength. But behind her iconic public image, there lay a deeply personal story that was often overshadowed by the royal family's secrecy and the scandals surrounding her marriage to Prince Charles. The world watched in disbelief as Diana's marriage to Charles crumbled under the weight of emotional distance, public scrutiny, and Charles's enduring relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. While Charles's betrayal was widely known, Diana's resilience and unwavering spirit were what truly defined her. But what often gets overlooked in the shadows of these betrayals is how Diana's impact still ripples through the royal family and beyond. Even after the divorce, Diana's influence remained powerful, especially on her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. Diana's advocacy for causes like HIV/AIDS awareness, her work with landmine victims, and her campaign for mental health awareness changed the way the world viewed royalty. She gave voice to the voiceless and used her platform for good, making her the people's princess, in every sense of the word. Charles's betrayal of Diana was deeply damaging, not just to their relationship, but also to the monarchy's image. Yet, her legacy outshone the controversies that defined much of her marriage. Her charitable work, her warmth, and her relatability connected her with people worldwide. Unlike any royal before her, In the aftermath of her death, Charles's tribute at her funeral and his decision to wear navy instead of traditional mourning black sent a signal to the world that there was more to their relationship than what had been publicly revealed. It was as if Charles was finally recognizing the woman Diana had been, and the profound effect she had on his life. Diana's legacy lives on not just in the charity work she championed, but in the lives of her children and in the hearts of millions who still remember her with love.